The reason I like this fire starter so much is because it burns for so long. Hi, my name is Joe, and today I'm going to show you what is the easiest and best fire starter that you can make for your wood stove. All it is sawdust and waste oil. I'm also going to show you how I make a fire in my wood stove and how I use these tools right here to give you some interesting information on what's going on with your wood stove. This is a jar of pretty densely packed sawdust. It's half pine, half hardwood. And this is a jug of waste oil, mostly 10W30. Jar's about 3/4 full, 4 or 5 ounces of this, and that is all there is to it. You give this about a week, and that oil is just going to soak all the way through this sawdust. And that is all you have to do. I always store this fire starter in a metal can with an airtight lid because there is a chance of spontaneous combustion. Whenever you have like a oily rag or something like that, this is just like that. You want to keep it in an airtight metal container. All right, so now that we got our fire starter made, I'm going to show you the materials I use to start a fire. Here I have a little chunk of 2x4. This little chunk of 2x4 makes a pile of kindling this size. Here I have oak kindling, starting what I would call like 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch to 1 inch to 3 inch. You start with the small stuff, end with the big stuff. All right, I'm gonna start by taking a handful of my pine kindling, making a pile. I'm not gonna use all of it to do this, but I just like to make a pile. And then I take 1 tablespoon of my fire starter here and drop that on top. I'm also going to take a tablespoon and burn it on this plate right here so that you can see how long it burns for. After my pine, I'm going to take some of my oak kindling and put that on there. This would be what I would call my 1/4 inch stuff. And that is what I'm going to start with. Once this gets going, I'll start to put on what I call my 1/2 inch kindling. So we're gonna run a timer here so that you can see just how long this burns for. I'm going to shut up here and let this burn for 1 minute, and then we'll talk again. So while that gets going, I'm going to show you one of the tools that I use that'll give me some good information on the wood that I'm burning. Here I have that chunk of 2x4. This is a kiln dried piece of wood. And we are at 9.1% moisture. That's really good. Anything under 20, they say, is good. So you can see we are 1 minute and 30 seconds in here. Oh, let's see here. And look at how much fire we've got in 1 minute and 48 seconds. Pretty impressive. The reason I like this fire starter so much is because it burns for so long. It's so easy to make. It's free to make, just waste products. We're at 2 minutes, it's burning strong. And you want a fire starter that burns for a fair amount of time to give you some time for heat to build up in that fire. So we've now got all of our pine kindling, all of our what I would call 1/4 inch oak kindling, plus all the 1/2 inch. And I'm going to start throwing on some of the 1 inch. I like to drop my wood in so that there's an air gap. It's one of the nice things about this grate right here as well, is it provides an air gap in between the pieces of wood. So you got lots of surface area that can be hit by the fire. We're now at 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And our fire starter is burning good still. It's important to start with dry wood, which is one of the reasons I really like the moisture meter. When we get this going here, good, I'm going to throw in a piece of wood here that is at 21% moisture. This one was sitting outside, not covered. Didn't sit for very long. It's nice to give your firewood a year at least, preferably 2, to dry. I forgot to show you on camera, but all of the oak firewood that I'm using here is 12% moisture content. That's as good as you can hope for in my area. It took 2 years drying underneath a lean-to for it to get to 12%, and it burns real good, as you can see. So all of the oak firewood you see here is 12%, other than the one piece that's at 21%. Well, here we are. We are 4.5 minutes in, and I gotta tell you, that's a heck of a fire for 4 minutes in. All right, we'll throw in this piece of wood here that I know is 20-some% moisture content. And we'll see what that does. Five minutes. Five minutes, 11 seconds. Our fire starter is still burning, and you can see when you have dry wood, that is plenty of time for a good fire to get going. So this is just kind of, at this point, not even necessary for your fire starter to burn that long, but it is nice. If you're burning wet wood, really helps it to get going. So I got 5 minutes and 45 seconds there. I'm gonna say it's out. So we got close to six minutes of burn time on this fire starter. Pretty impressive. And we've got a heck of a fire going in 6 minutes. Here you can see the water burning out of that wet piece of wood. The next thing I wanted to share with you was some information that I found online. If you Google firewood BTU chart or firewood weight chart, you can find the weight per cord and BTU per cord for any tree that grows in North America. I'm burning red oak. It's about 5,000 pounds a cord green. That means not dried. Dried, it's about 3,500 pounds, and it has about 25 million BTUs per cord. You do some simple math to find your BTUs per pound. For red oak, it's about 7,000. So if you have something like a fish scale or a kitchen scale and you've got a 5-gallon pail full of wood, you can weigh your wood and see how long it takes you to burn this pail of wood in your stove to give you an estimate of how many BTUs per hour your stove is burning. So the last toy that I have to show you is my infrared thermometer. I really like this thing. I bought it a few months ago, and it just gives you all kinds of interesting information. About 60 degrees on the floor. So you can see our wood stove is kicking out some heat. No doubt. Oh yeah, you can feel it. You can see I got a little break in my elbow right here, and you can see we're losing a lot of heat up that stack right now. One of the things that I learned from buying this thing is I was worried that my heat shield here was getting too warm. So that's about 150 degrees back there. So I added this extra piece of metal here to deflect that heat from my barn wall. You can see my heat shield, it only has about a 3/4 inch gap. I've got a board right there and then this metal right here. So there's not a huge gap between the heat shield and the wall. So I think this thing here in the long run may have helped prevented me from burning down my barn. I have limited space in here, so I know that this stove is too close to that wall. It should be further away, but I think the heat shield is doing its job now with that extra layer. So just in case you're wondering, if you're wondering why this looks like it does, I was originally gonna blacksmith right here, and this was gonna be like a side draft for a coal forge. I wound up going with a wood stove instead, so I could already put this in place. I go from 6-inch to 10-inch stovepipe. I never would have bought that stovepipe if I wasn't going to coal forge, but you want a lot of draft when you're forging. And so outside was just going to be 10-inch stovepipe, and then this was going to be the exit for all of the flame and smoke and whatnot. But I just didn't go that route. So I do get a tremendous amount of draft from this pipe right here. I don't know how you calculate it, but I know I get a tremendous amount of draft from that big stovepipe. For me, half the fun of coming out to my barn and working on stuff is getting a fire going, tinkering with that. I really enjoy it. I hope you got something out of this video. I thank you for watching, and have a good one.